The Beatles' arrival in the United States in February 1964 is one of the loudest and most exciting moments in the history of American pop culture. This was the first trip to America for each of the Beatles except guitarist George Harrison. Months before the Beatles made this big splash in New York, George came to visit his sister in Benton, Illinois, about 5.5 hours south of Rock Island. Louise Harrison was very close to George. She worked hard to promote the Beatles in the U.S. long before anybody here had ever heard of them. I think we have a nice photograph there. I know you must love this, Louise, the kiss there from George. Yeah. Today, Louise Harrison works to preserve and honor her late brother's memory, and Louise joins us in our studio this morning. It's an honor to have you here.
Well, it's wonderful to be here, especially this time of morning, because I'm not used to this time of morning.
So you're being honest that you like getting up this early?
No, I'm being honest that I'm not used to getting up this early.
Oh, right, okay. Well, I know you're here to talk about Liverpool legends, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But first I want to ask you, in 1963, in the early 1960s, you're from Liverpool like the rest of the Beatles, like your brother George. What were you doing in Benton, Illinois then?
Well, I was married to a very, very brilliant mechanical design engineer. We had lived all over Canada, South America, and had just moved into the United States as permanent resident aliens. So I came into this country in March of '63, and immediately my mum was sending me the Beatles singles, and I was always a ham myself. In fact, as a child, everybody was telling me, oh, she's just like Shirley Temple. So I've always expected to be Shirley Temple, but I think it's a bit too late for that now. But anyway, I was so excited about the idea of my brother being in showbiz that I was running around all the radio stations within about a 200-mile radius.
In Illinois.
In Illinois.
Southern Illinois.
Yeah.
And we should say this, you know, in 1963, the Beatles were becoming big in England, but here they were unknown.
Totally unknown.
So George actually comes to visit you in 1963 when no one here knows him. He spends more than 2 weeks with you in Illinois.
Mostly going camping and hanging out in places like, it was called the Bocce Ball Club. It was a club made by Italian miners that worked in the mining companies, and they played some kind of lawn bowls. He was there, and he also performed, actually, the very, very first Beatle live performance in the United States was in El Dorado, in Southern Illinois, at a VFW club.
That's remarkable. And so at this point, there are no screaming girls. There's no photographs because nobody knows him yet.
Yes.
And months later, they come to America, the video we just saw, and everything exploded. They were on the Ed Sullivan Show. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Yes.
You actually take credit for playing or getting the first Beatles record played in the United States.
I wouldn't like to say that I take credit.
Or some try to give you credit for it.
Well, I mean, I did do it.
But you are way too modest.
But I'm English.
That's history.
You know, English, we don't go brag around, you know, bragging about things.
We're different here in America, but we respect that. Go ahead.
I've noticed that. But, yeah, I did do an awful lot of work and wrote to Brian, their manager, because he knew nothing about the United States, you know, music business. So I was researching it, getting the Cashbox, Billboard, and Variety magazines.
So what was that? I'm sorry, that was Please Please Me? Would that have been the record?
Well, that was one of the first one that made it to #1 in this country, once they got with Capitol Records, was I Want to Hold Your Hand.
And is that the one that you had played on the radio station in Illinois?
No,
do you recall?
The one that I got played on was From Me to You. Now, Del Shannon had been in Britain the year before and had heard their version of the song and had come back here and made a cover version of it, and his version was being played on the radio stations. So I was going around to the radio stations and saying, hey, look here, this is the original version, this is my kid brother's band, and this is the one you should be playing. And they were saying, well, we're already playing this one, and besides, that Beatles stuff's it's never going to go anywhere, it's not commercial. So
wow.
But you know, I'm a Harrison, and I was very persistent, and I kept on saying, no, this is good, and it's going to be good, and you know, you've got to pay attention to me. But
historians give you a lot of credit for helping. They do. Indeed, they do give you a lot of credit for helping getting these guys going.
So does that make me historical?
Well, I would take that if I were you. I think you definitely deserve that. Now, you have devoted a great deal of your life preserving George's legacy of peace, love, very spiritual guy. Right before he went on, you gave me what's called a Harrison hug, which is is your way of passing that on.
That came from him originally, and he asked me to pass it on. So after he died, I started giving people hugs and saying, this came from George, please pass it on. What I'm hearing now is, I had an email from a lady in Argentina a couple of years ago, and she said, I got a Harrison hug for my birthday, which you had given to somebody in Cleveland in 2003. Then we got text messages a couple of weeks ago from somebody who said, I received my Harrison hug, and I've now given it to people in 17 different countries. How about that? So the new venture that I'm going into with, in conjunction with what we're doing at the North Davenport High School tonight, is we're putting together an organization which is going to be called Louise Harrison KeepingMusicAlive.org. That website will be up soon, and we're going to have a page on it for Harrison hug reports, so that people can tell how their Harrison hug is going around, and that way we're keeping George's love circulating the globe. With 3 degrees of separation or 4 degrees of separation around the world. However many, you know, the love is still the same love that's going to everybody, you know. And tonight, Liverpool Legends, which you handpicked these guys, they're going to be performing this evening. Well, you know, my family are very well known, my parents as well as George. In fact, that's where he got it from, for their integrity and honesty. In fact, it was a bit of a disadvantage being brought up by people that were so totally honest, because when you get out in the real world, it suddenly smacks you in the face that everybody isn't that way, you know. But because of their integrity, I wanted to make sure that I'm not going to be going out and talking about a bunch of guys that are a bunch of sleazebags. You want to know them. I want to make sure the quality is there in the fidelity. I wanted to know that they were good musicians, that they looked as much like the Beatles as possible, but most of all, I wanted the kind of guys that if George was still here, they'd be the kind of musicians he would want to hang out with. It makes you wonder, with his passion for philanthropy, the concert for Bangladesh, and everything he did today with the technology, the social networking that we have, the power that he would have to be able to communicate and connect as you're doing now would be... Well, I'm just basically, since he's not here, I'm just basically carrying on doing what I think he would have wanted me to do. This whole idea of keeping music alive stems from a PSA. The only PSA he ever did in his entire life was in conjunction with Mr. Holland's Opus, the movie, where he did a little talk and he said, please, keep on funding the music departments. He said, I know, that obviously sports is always going to be supported in schools, but keep the music alive, keep music alive. So that's basically what we're trying to do, is to keep, and especially now when it's so needed. I mean, let's face it, everything's being defunded, and so... Absolutely, that's an issue that we have here in the QCA for sure. The information on Liverpool Legends and the other that you mentioned, we'll put that on our Facebook page for people who want more information. Can we tell people that the phone number is 563-320-7323, and the tickets, if you buy them earlier today, are $25, and at the door they're $30. We can mention that on our Facebook page. That. Great. Thank you so much for coming by. It's an honor to have you with us this morning. And all the viewers out there, come on by and get a Harrison hug. They're free, okay? Wow, what an offer. Louise Harrison, sister of George Harrison in the QCA, back close to your old stomping ground, not too far away from Benton, Illinois. It's good to have you here this morning. Thank you so much, and thanks for having me, and I hope all of the people watching will come to the show, because we do donate 25% of the gross proceeds to the school for the music department. Thank you. You're as good at marketing as George was at playing the guitar. Well, I started out in 1963. You've been doing this for a while. Very good. I should be good at it by now. Louise, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Jessica? All right.